Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Becky and I like to read. I'm assuming that since you are watching this video, you also like to read. And I'm assuming if you've clicked on this video, that is because you have a partner in your life that doesn't read yet, and you're hoping that they will, or they're just getting into reading themselves, and you're trying to figure out how you can help them in their reading journey and getting them to love books as much as you do. So, what gave me this video idea was that I was on Facebook, and in our town, there is a Facebook group for all the women in town. Someone posted on that group about how they are a reader and their husband mentioned that they want to get more into reading. So they were asking what are good books to read that would interest both of them, as well as how do you do a buddy read with your husband. So I've been thinking about that question for days now. I did give an answer in the post directly, but it just got me thinking about buddy reads and different ways of going about doing it. Or you can see my question block. Especially where I live, schedules are a little bit crazy, a little bit all over the place, and it's not just Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 kind of work. And if both people are working, they're probably working either opposite shifts or just the shifts, they might line up more, but it's long days, long hours, things like that. For instance, my husband works anywhere from 12 days on to 2 days off, 10 to 12 hours a day, usually 10 hours a day, but sometimes, the job needs to get done yesterday, so it's 12-hour days. And he will either do a 12 and 2 shift, an 11 and 3 shift, or a 10 and 4 shift. For the past couple of months of 2024, he was doing 10 and 4, and then he gets a month off between middle of December and middle of January because he works in the trades and it's slow that time of year. So it just is what it is. And a lot of people have shifts like that, 7 on, 7 off, 10 plus hours a day. We have a busing system here that takes the people to work from inside the city out to the sites, because it is predominantly an oil-based town where we, collect oil and all that good fun stuff. So it can be hard to just sit down at the end of the day and read a book together, especially if you're a family and you have children and you have to be functional after work and take care of your family. It makes it even more difficult after a 12-hour day, 12 days in a row. So I don't know if this person has kids or not. They didn't mention that. That wasn't part of the question. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about buddy reads and different ways you can go about doing it. So first and foremost, if you are a major reader and your partner is not a reader, that's okay. Don't force it on them. It's like school when we are forced to read and we end up just hating the books because we don't want to read them. We're being forced to do it, and it's not fun that way. So if they don't like to read, that's fine. Just let them do their own hobby. Find something else you guys can talk about together, like a TV show that you watch or a movie that you're both interested in, or just something else to talk about that isn't books. If your partner comes up to you, or even like a best friend or something, and says, I want to get more into reading, want to read a book with me, or what should I read? I want to talk about a little bit what should I read, but more like how to do the buddy read if you're choosing to read the same books together at the same time. So my friend and I, we live long distance from each other. We have a long distance relationship, and we are both quite big readers. I don't know who reads more in a year. I don't think she really records it the way I do. But we're both busy, we live far apart, we're both moms. She works full-time outside the house along with being a mom. We don't do a ton of buddy reads, but we usually do a couple of a year. And we just find books like at our local Chapters or Kohl's or Indigo. There are books that are on that table that's like 3 for $10 or 2 for $20 or whatever. And we'll buy 2 of the same cheap book and just each read it at the same time. Or we'll both find an audiobook or something. And one year, 2019, we're like, let's read a book that has a movie coming out, and then maybe we can see the movie. Either we can get together and see it at some point, or we'll both just watch it separately and talk about it after. And we ended up doing The Goldfinch, and both of us thought that was the most boring book ever and forced ourselves to finish it and have still not seen the movie. So, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. One of the buddy reads we did last year about hedgehogs was because I accidentally bought the same book twice, thinking it was the sequel to the first book, but I bought the sequel twice. So we ended up reading the first book, and then I finished the second book. She hasn't finished it yet. I don't believe. They're not bad stories, but they're not the most engaging. Like, if you're reading a thriller or a mystery and you're like, oh, I just want to know what happens, I want to know what happens, you're just going through it, right? It is important when you're doing buddy reads that you find books that are interesting and something that you both like. It's easier when your friend, your partner, whoever you want to do a buddy read with is already a reader, and you might have wildly different genres that you read, but there's usually something you can connect on. But if you are with somebody, like for me, my husband just got more into reading at the end of 23, and I did a video last year that came out in March reading his favorite trilogy of 2023, which happened to be the first 3 Red Rising, and he's gone through to read like the other 3 or 4 books. He's on the last one now, and I read the 3, did a whole video vlog reading it. I read basically one a month, January, February, March, and then posted this video on his birthday, and then he watched it coming home on the bus from his work. So the way we did that buddy read with Red Rising was he didn't even know I was buddy reading it. I read it in secret, posted that video. He watched it on his way home from work, and then we went out for dinner for his birthday and just geeked out over Red Rising. So that was a fun way to do a buddy read, but most people aren't going to like record it. But you could do like little voice clips if you wanted of like reacting to parts of the book, and then just be like, hey, I'm on chapter 16, so if you haven't read that part yet, listen to this voice clip when you get to that chapter, and then you could just do like a little quick voice clip or whatever. I don't know what that like Snapchat and stuff like that is, and there's one that does voice clips. I've never gotten into all that stuff. I'm too old for that, and none of my friends do it as far as I know, or at least they don't do it with me, so I'm not sure. But you could do that, but most people aren't going to make an entire YouTube video sharing their experience. Let's get into how you would actually do, how most people would be doing a buddy read. So the classic way of doing it is just you both buy the book and you read it and you talk about it when you get a chance. Whether you check in every 5 chapters or halfway through or just at the end of the book, and you make a little coffee date and go talk about the book, like your own little book club. That's one way of doing it. And I would say that's the most common way and the easiest way. If you are married or in a long-term relationship with this person, you're living with this person, it's easier to buy one book, save some money that way, and each take turns reading the book. Or like I'll read the first 5 chapters and then the next day you read the first 5 chapters or whatever, go back and forth with reading the book. Or I sit down and read the entire book and then give it to my husband, and then he reads the entire book and we talk about it. So if you want to do something like that with one book, you can do like highlighting, annotating, and notes to help you remember what you want to talk about at certain times. So not everybody is comfortable with physically writing in their books, and that is okay. Get a sticky note and stick it on the page, and you can leave a little note. I did this once with my friend who's long distance. I had 3 kids, she had a kid, and so we could connect on the mommy part of life. And I got the book, I can't remember the name of it, but I'll post it here. And I highlighted and put notes, and it happens to be Canadian as well. So it was similar in like the medical system and everything, but they're in East Canada, we're on West Canada. So they're like, before we had to leave the hospital, we had to do this like fart test or something. Like you had to be able to fart or something before you could leave the hospital after giving birth. And I was like, no. I don't know about you, because people have had our babies at different hospitals, even though we're in the same province. I was like, I don't know about you, but that was not part of my test to go home from the hospital. So, I don't know. But I highlighted, I left notes and everything, and then I mailed it to her, and I was like, here's your book. I hope you don't mind writing in it. If not, I can always buy like another copy with no writing. So you can write directly in the book, or you can do sticky notes. Some people who do like in-depth annotating, and that's not what this video is about at all. And I will share some videos down below if you want to get into annotating your books, because there's like whole systems on how to do this. Some people just grab a highlighter and they just highlight everything they like in a book, and other people have like very specific systems. They highlight, they underline, they circle, they put a box around different words, whatever it might be. So I will share some links down below if you want to get in depth into annotating. But at the beginning of the book, on the inside front cover of the book, or on like a blank page, a title page, whatever, or you can insert your own page in it, you could have like a legend of things. You pooped. Yeah, gross. So you could be like, a smiley face drawn like this means I thought this was a sweet moment. But a smiley face like with the little squinty eyes means I laughed. And, you know, a sad face because this made me sad, or like a little tear, this made me cry. You could have a legend that way. You could have like blue made me cry, yellow made me laugh. I think of yellow as like smiley faces, so this made me smile or laugh. You could put like LOL if it actually made you laugh in the thing. Or if you don't want to like physically mark up your book, you could have the little tabs that you put in the book and have different colors. So again, you might not have like a yellow tab or something, but maybe you pick a different color. Or I like to match my tabs to the color of that's on the cover of the book. So if it's a lot of blues or something, you might have a darker blue for moody, dark moments, depending on what kind of book you're reading. You know, you could have a mark for romance, for relationship stuff, whatever it is, right? If you're reading something with a magic system, you might have a tab that says like, this explains the magic system, so I liked that it was explained well here, or whatever, right? And again, you can use sticky notes. So if you're reading a book that has something like a magic system in it and you're confused, you could write on the sticky note, like, do you understand what's happening here? How does this magic work? And then hopefully the other person will read it and then can respond. And they could respond by writing on the sticky note if there's enough space on it, or adding their own sticky note, and then you're going back and forth and reading it like you're checking your mail kind of thing, which could be really cute and fun. Or I was thinking too, if you really don't want to write in the book at all, you don't want to do sticky notes, nothing, you could just buy a cheap journal and write like on page 52, Joe says this to Sally, and I thought this was funny. You could actually like write out the whole quote if you wanted, but it could be, if it's a short quote, you might want to write it out, but if it's a little bit longer of a quote, is that a good granola bar? Yeah. If it's a little bit of a longer quote, you might just want to point out where it is in the book and your thoughts and feelings on it. And again, if you have a journal doing that, the other person, when they read those chapters, they can write out their thoughts in the journal, and like you could write in blue and they write in black. Or if you are like me and you have more colors, you know, my husband might write in blue and I might write in pink or purple or something. My husband and I haven't done that yet, but it might be a fun way of reading a book together and sharing that experience, especially because it takes us forever to do a buddy read because of our schedule. So the way my husband and I typically do buddy reads is through audiobooks, and we listen to the audiobook together in the car. So when do we have time together in the car? Very rarely. Where we don't have kids screaming bloody murder or just talking, or they don't have the headphones in the back of the van anymore for their videos. So we can't listen to a book in the front and then listen to their movie in the back at the same time because they've broken the headphones. So that's really frustrating. And we are currently listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl as an audiobook, and it's not very explicit. It's not a romance or anything. It's not explicit, but it has a lot of swearing and stuff in it. So it can be a little bit harder to listen to with the kids around. So it can take us months to listen to an average like 8 to 12 hour audiobook. It can take us months to finally get through it, and that can be really frustrating. So again, with something, if you are listening to audiobooks or whatever, again, you could have like a little journal where you take some notes and you can both listen to it at your own time. And that might just work better for you and your time constraints and your schedules and everything like that. If my husband and I are doing a physical buddy read, then we would just read when we have the time and kind of like tandem read the book together. But with audiobooks, we try to listen to them at the same time while we are together. So the question that this lady was asking in that Facebook group was talking about her husband wants to get into reading. What are some good books? So I want to talk about that as well with people. Again, if they're not interested in reading, don't force your hobby on them. They're going to be miserable. They're not going to like it. Even if you find a book that you think they are going to absolutely love, you can mention it to them. You can talk a little bit about it and just say like, I think you'd really like this book, but leave it at that. Don't force reading. It's not going to work. And audiobooks count as reading. If you need to learn how to read and comprehend what you're reading and all of that stuff, then yes, you need to sit down and physically read a book and do the comprehension and everything like that. But listening to an audiobook counts as consuming the story. So one way to find books that somebody who just is getting into reading that they're gonna like is, what do they already like to do? So if your partner is a video gamer, for instance, find books that are about games. Ready Player One is a very popular book, and there's also Ready Player Two. It's okay. The first one is a lot better. I'm not a huge gamer, but I still really loved and enjoyed that story. And if you listen to the audiobook of Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, it is narrated by Will Wheaton. So that was really fun, and it is about being inside a virtual world, and there is a challenge on how to inherit the fortunes of the person who created this virtual world. And the real world is very dystopian, fallen apart society. It's not great out in the real world right now, and people go to the virtual world for things like schooling is done through this virtual world and everything, because it's just safer, easier, better that way. But then there is like gaming aspects to it as well, challenges and everything, that is what the main story is about. And it all wraps up in Ready Player One. You don't need to read Ready Player Two, but you can if you want to, obviously, if you found it interesting, but you don't have to. It's not a duology where it's left on a cliffhanger or anything. There was another book that my husband and I listened to that was written by Jason Segel from How I Met Your Mother, and I think he narrates it as well, and I can't remember the name of the book. It's a trilogy. My husband and I listened to the first one because that's what was available for free at the library, I believe, and we never continued on in it, but it wasn't a bad story or anything. We just only listened to the first one. That one is the same idea of it being a virtual world that you are in. I'll pop up a picture of it here so you can see what book I'm talking about. I can't remember the name of it. Another great way to get into reading is to think of TV shows and movies that you already love that have books with them. A good example, The Hunger Games. I think The Hunger Games did a great job in the movies and the books. I think they're ones that, you know, everyone always says like the book is better. I think you can do either one or both. And some people find it hard to get into a story, so you already have the movie there in your head that you can think about and can help you picture and imagine this world that you're being put into, and you already kind of know the story a little bit. Things can be a little bit different in the book and stuff like that, but you have an idea going in what the story is going to be about. And then your buddy read, especially if you're doing this as a buddy read, you can pick a favorite movie already and then read the book for it, or you can find something that you've been wanting to watch but haven't seen it yet, and then read the book and then watch the movie, or vice versa. I'm the kind of person who likes to read the book first and then watch the movie, but sometimes it's nice to watch the movie first because the book is better. When you read the book first and then you're watching the movie, for me personally, I'm just like, this isn't right, this has changed, that guy didn't say that, this happened, oh, that person actually dies in the book, and why are they still alive here, whatever, right? So you're just pointing out all the things that are different with it. If you watch the movie first and then you read the book, you can be like, oh, I see they changed this, or oh, I can see why they changed that, or hey, I got more information on this topic. So you decide what you want to do, but that's a great way to get into reading because you already know that you love the story. I also want to mention that comic books, graphic novels, and manga all count as reading, and you might not be interested in comic books, but if your partner is, and that's how they want to start with getting more into reading, go for it. You might not be interested in doing a buddy read with that, but if you want to support them and get more into buddy reading, a comic book isn't going to take you very long to read. A manga, you can read a whole manga, a short manga anyways, in like an hour or two. Just sit down and read it. And it has pictures, right? So you can talk about the artwork in it, or graphic novels. You can talk about like, I really liked this color palette that they used. I liked these drawings. I liked this imagery. There's more to even talk about in those kind of stories. And comic books won't take you very long to read. And it does count as reading. I know some of the comic books, you know, the fight scenes, it's just like pow, bam, bang, and you're just getting more picture and not a lot of actual reading in it. But some of them do have quite a bit of text that you are reading that goes along with the pictures. My husband's favorite superhero comic book character is Spider-Man. So I found a book on chapters online that was like a bind up of whatever section of Spider-Man comics. I think it's comics. I could be a graphic novel. I'm not 100% sure. But I didn't buy that for a buddy read. I just bought that for him for his birthday. something easy to flip through. It's quite thick. And it's not like a typical comic book that's like this tiny little comic book that you think about and you sit down and read it in 10 minutes. It's like a big, thick story, but it is something to help get him into reading. And I want to mention that for parents as well who are trying to get their kids into reading, especially their sons. A lot of people want their kids to be reading full-on chapter book novels. And comic books and graphic novels are a great way to get your kids into reading as well. My son, like most boys, isn't huge into reading, but he loves the Dogman books, and he will sit down and read the Dogman books every time a new one comes out. And he's always excited for a new one because he's like, hey, I read the last one like 300 times. So the creator of Dogman, who has a movie coming out this year at the end of January, the Dogman movie, is the same author as Captain Underpants. So my son is not as into Captain Underpants. He likes the show and the movie, but he just loves the Dogman books for whatever reason over the Captain Underpants ones. But Captain Underpants audiobooks are really fun if you want something to listen to with a little bit of a younger audience. If it's just your kids, you and your kids in the car, or you like the family, you're going on a family trip and you want something to listen to, Captain Underpants is a lot of fun because there's the different narrators for the different voices, and they do all the sound effects and stuff. So expect a lot of potty humor and fart sound effects and stuff. But it's really a fun audiobook for you to listen to as a family, especially with your kids. So going back to having an adult buddy read, yeah, I just suggest finding things that you are interested in. And keep in mind that some guys, especially in our generation, grew up playing video games, and there are some video games my husband plays because of the story. Some video games have quite an in-depth, impactful story to them as well. I am not one of those gamers. If I do game, it's like Mario, you know, Bowser stole Princess Peach and put her in a tower and we have to rescue her kind of thing. That is the extent of the story. And I'm just running through trying to beat the levels as fast as I can. I'm not there for a story. I'm there just to do, kind of shut off my brain and play a game. Or I like games like Animal Crossing, where I'm not doing a ton of reading and thinking and stuff, so that I can listen to something like a podcast or an audiobook and just doing something else to occupy my brain while listening to the audiobook. A game that isn't using up a lot of mental space, right? Where some games are designed to just be a story. You have quite an in-depth story. If your husband, your partner, is really into those kind of games, you can try and find out what kind of story that is and look up books that would go with that kind of story. So if it's more historical, if it's more fantasy, if it's more action-packed, if you're playing the first-person shooter kind of games, there's books out there as well that are going to fit. Oh my gosh, stop. There are going to be books out there that kind of go in that genre. It might be an interesting story for your partner to jump into. So as you can see, my life is a little bit chaotic and crazy and all over the place here. So I am trying to remember if that is everything I wanted to talk about with buddy reads and how to get into reading with somebody who is showing interest in reading, or if you're both into reading already but trying to figure out how to do a buddy read. I think the best system is to jot down a few notes just to help keep it fresh in your mind, and then read the books however you want to read them. If you read it physically and they listen to it as an audiobook, or you both read it physically or audiobook it or whatever on your own time together, however it works. And then plan a date that you can talk about it over coffee, over breakfast, over dinner, whatever it is. Make sure there's no kids around and stuff, and talk about it, and just have that as your date. And you're not allowed to talk about other stuff. It's date night, it's book club date night. Hello, Editing Becky here, and I just wanted to add that I mentioned going on a date to talk about the books that you have chosen to buddy read and making sure that there's no kids around. And I wanted to put a little bit more of a caveat on that, I guess. I was thinking of that more as like you and your partner are going out on a date, and it is a book club date specifically, and that's when you don't want to have the kids around. But as a busy mom of 4 kids myself, I know how hard it can be to get away from the children and how expensive it can be to find a babysitter, things like that. So I just wanted to add, even if it is between you and your husband, your partner, whatever, you can still do it. But if you are having a book club with your girlfriends and you all have little kids, or maybe somebody has an older child that is able to do some babysitting, like my daughter just turned 13, for example, and everyone could chip in, you know, $5 and she could watch all the kids at, say somebody has a house with a playroom entertainment area that all the kids could go and be like in the basement or upstairs or somewhere not in the same area as you, so that you have a little bit of quiet time, but all the parents are still there if anything goes wrong, and any little babies and stuff can obviously stay with the mom. And then 1 or 2 teenagers, everyone can chip in $5 or something. You can work out whatever, and they can do the babysitting. Or, you know, you and a couple girlfriends go to the park, pack a picnic lunch, and grab some Starbucks or whatever your favorite drinks and head out to the park, and the kids can play. You're still visually supervising them, but let them run off and play, and you guys chat and catch up and do book club that way as well. So you can do this as a busy mom. I know it's hard, especially when your kids are so little, and even as they get older, you're still quite busy, and depending if you work out of the home or not, there's that whole added part of work and everything. It can be hard to find the time to actually physically read a book, but book club doesn't have to be every month either. It can be, you know, do it 4 times a year. Every quarter you read a spring book, winter book, summer, fall, whatever, right? A Christmas read, whatever you want. You make it work for you. You can do 1 book a year, you can do 2 books a year, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is just to get together and making that time to do a little book club together. And obviously I'm talking to people who are looking to do buddy reads and book clubs and reading more. So if that is a goal of yours, you will find time somewhere to do it. So I just wanted to add that in. If you're buying your books and it's not like some special crazy expensive edition or anything like that, don't be afraid to write in them if you want to write in them. They're your books and you can do what you want with them. It's your money. But again, if you don't want to write in them, I totally understand that, and you can just use a notebook, just loose leaf lined paper, 3-hole punch paper with a binder, like whatever you want. Type the notes in your phone. I personally don't like typing. Like if I'm doing a lot, I don't like the typing on my phone. I'd rather a keyboard, but you can do, like, I have a Google Doc that I share with my husband, and it's our honey-do list, and it's things that need to get done around the house. You could have that shared, that is like your book club notes, and you don't need to use any paper at all. You can do it all digitally. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to talk about, and just affirming that reading is reading, whether it's graphic novels or comic books or manga. One manga series I really like, I've only really read 1 manga series, is Spy Family. That one's really cute and fun, and a lot of people like it, and it has its own anime. So that's another thing you could get if your husband is really into anime. You could look at mangas for them to read. Again, it might not be something that you are personally interested in doing a buddy read with, but it could be something to help them just on their own reading journey that you gift to them, is the manga of their favorite anime series. And yeah, if you're just looking for recommendations, just look at what they already like, their favorite movies. Even if they have a favorite movie, like say Armageddon, that doesn't have a direct book adaptation to it, find books set in space. I would suggest Andy Weir, The Martian, and Project Hail Mary. The Martian does have a movie. Project Hail Mary doesn't yet, but I think it will. And Project Hail Mary is a really fun audiobook as well. Sorry for the dog whining. She's in timeout. Yeah, so if there isn't a direct movie book adaptation, you can just find books set in that same genre. Anyways, I hope this helps in your reading journey, getting other people to read with you and doing buddy reads. If you want to do a buddy read with me, comment down below what kind of books you like to read and you're interested in, and I would love to join you and do videos and chat about it, especially if you live where that girl gang Facebook group is. I'm around and I am willing to do a book club, host a book club, whatever. I don't read fairy smut. I know that's like the #1 genre that everyone talks about in that girl gang and in the book club specific Facebook groups and stuff. It's just not my genre. But if you want to pick up a mystery, a thriller, a less spicy romance, I'm for it. If you don't live here, if you are somebody far away or whatever, you don't know me, we don't live in the same city or anything like that, we can still do a book club. Discord online, I do have a Discord. That's another way of connecting and doing book clubs and doing it online digitally, or just whatever. We can just sit and chat and talk about books. And I will see you later for another video soon. Bye!